Anime is a vast and varied medium, and if you're not already familiar, it can be daunting to find something you might be interested in watching. This is a podcast where three average anime enjoyers introduce their uninitiated co-host to their favorite anime touchstones, so he can join them deep in the Weebs. This week we watched Serial Experiments Lain. Lain is a 13-episode anime which aired in 1998. The series follows Lain Iwakura, an adolescent girl in suburban Japan, and her relation to The Wired, a global communications network similar to the Internet. The series features surreal and avant-garde imagery and explores philosophical topics such as reality, identity, and communication. The series incorporates creative influences from computer history, cyberpunk, and conspiracy theories. It depicts a world fraught with paranoia, social alienation, and reliance on technology. For the series' 25th anniversary this past year, Serial Experiments Lain will have an online exhibition titled Weird Exhibition Welcome to Wired. We watched 4 episodes, episodes 1, 2, 6, and 11.
I am so excited to learn what you all thought of this show.
Chuck, not it.
No, this is your experience. This is your drive-through, buddy.
Oh no. Honestly,
No.
whether y'all liked it or hated it, like this seems like a show that evokes strongly one way or another.
Go on, Bob.
It is very reminiscent. I think something we had talked about previously is, for myself, I have seen the Animatrix because I really do enjoy the Matrix series. And this does give its vibe. So, yeah, if that's your style, then there you go.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess we're just going right to finishing thoughts then. Cool. Okay.
No. It's hard to put this show into words.
Yeah.
I will agree with you there.
Because what you think it's about, it very much evolves.
Yeah.
With the episodes that we watched, yeah.
The thing that I wanted to, so when I was trying to pick episodes for this, it's very weird, right? Because this show is, the vibe changes kind of rapidly, kind of quickly. Like this is only a 12 or 13 episode series, so like they span a lot of, not genres, but they span like a lot of vibes of show in a relatively short amount of time. Like I kind of by luck, when I was just trying to think of like what are the episodes I remember that have some big moments, and it kind of came down to like a lot of the moments with Chise, I believe is the girl who sets everything off.
Correct.
And like her, she keeps coming back, and it's very much about like relating to that and what does it mean to be on the different sides and all of that. But like we didn't see anything about the knights who, no, I'm sorry, one of those black sedan agents says the knights at one point, but like that is almost like from Steins Gate, the idea of like, yeah, there is a sort of faceless online organization with grand plans. Like when we get to the episode about kids, and it's just like, oh, you were doing like almost some like Cowboy Bebop style psychic energy kid experiments too, huh? Okay, like there's just so much that this show wants to be about. It's crazy.
I will say this show also does not pull punches.
No.
Very adult without being, from the episodes we saw, there's no swearing that I can think of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's probably the only no adult warning I can give you. The rest of it, mature. This is a mature show
Yeah, like
revolving around kids.
one of my notes is very much about like, yeah, we have like 3 suicides within the first 2 episodes, and that's a pretty high ratio, you gotta admit. Yeah, we should probably just get talking about this, because like there is just so much to chew on. Although I'm not sure that like talking through everything in order is actually going to help understandings or summaries.
Yeah, no, I've got thoughts on that later.
Great, I love it.
First, I want to remind our listeners that this is our second show in the existential crisis tier. So yeah, all these shows are going to be mature. But also just to ask Nick, since you were the main one who picked this one, why did you pick this one?
The show itself? Because this is very... I think this show was very, like, culturally important. Like, this show is not necessarily a banger in the way that, like, something like a Cowboy Bebop or even an Outlaw Stars. Like, this is not something that you throw on because you're just like, hell yeah, I remember that show. But in the era this came out, what it, like, everything it has to say about, like, and just the fact that it is a show about like connecting to people and doing that through like, online spaces and connectivity. And this was still what year was this? This was like 97, wasn't it? 98. At that time the internet was becoming very mainstream, but not in the way it's depicted in this show. Like, the way it's depicted in the show, I feel, is very much like not till the late aughts, when social media is really, the interconnection, the fact that like school kids are texting each other nonstop. Like, there is the concepts of what happens on the internet is also real, is just like there is a way that this show was sort of like ahead of its time. And I would say this show calls some shots the way that we might say that about, like, classic sci-fi literature that people like to call back to today. And I know whenever somebody makes that claim, it's always a little overwrought, and I'm sure I'm doing the same here. But like, looking back, what it was saying at the time, like, at the time the show was very super weird in a way that I think it is much easier to pick up on the themes today, because we all live with them so much closer, and just like they are more present in our lives than they were at the time. On top, like, and this show being about topics of like consciousness and connection and relationships, and like what defines you and your personhood. It's like, on the one hand, it's like very classic sci-fi. On the other hand, it is a question that so something like this might come up in, Star Trek, The Measure of a Man or whatever, but this entire show is trying to be about that in a lot of ways. And just like, okay, who are you? What do you stand for? Are you you? When do you stop being you? That it is so, like, this is a show that is so not afraid to steep itself in its theming that you actually can really lose track of a narrative in a way that makes it strange and memorable, but also is kind of brave. There's I would probably call this like a cult classic, but I think it's not that, like, a few people recognize it as like good in retrospect. It's more like everybody recognizes as kind of meaningful, but it's just not like, but it's not something that you can like vibe with very easily,
Makes sense.
But yeah, maybe ground anything. Let's get into talking about the first episode, the season 1, episode 1, Weird.
Layer 01.
This is a show about Christmas. It is always present day and present time.
Oh, don't forget to laugh.
Not like that.
Pretty much.
That voice scares me so much.
So our show opens up with a literal bang. There's a girl who, pretty much because she's wearing glasses, decides to go to the top of a building and jump.
Wait, did you say
And-
because she's wearing glasses?
Yep, that's the whole reason.
Okay, all right.
Makes sense to me.
Mhm.
There's a couple at the bottom of the building making out. I can't tell if they're drunk or not, or they're just standing out of the side of a bar, but they're having a good time until, this girl falls against the sign, collapses on the ground. The sign falls next to her, and then, in a bit of comedy, just collapses right on top of her. And this is the beginning of the show.
Yeah,
As we,
it's the beginning,
Talk
but
about a mood killer.
like don't pass over the fact that like this is the beginning, but this is like a 10-minute scene because it's just like this show loves to linger on shots. Just absolutely will just be like, we are sitting here and looking at this.
that's a conversation piece for me at the end.
Great.
After the setup, and I believe this is when we get the intro-ish, we get to meet our main talker, groovy psychedelic word guy, who just puts up words that force us to read, regardless of whether we want to or not. And then we get to meet Lane, who is our main protagonist.
Our Lane protagonist. Sorry.
The thing with Lane is she just needs to chop off that one piece of hair that she wants to keep tied up because it looks ridiculous. I don't know why.
Hey, she cut her own hair.
I would believe it.
This girl loves technology. Get her a Flowbee.
She gets on the train because that's what she takes to go to school, at which, she's that strange person that no one wants to talk to on the train because they look crazy. She gets to school, and one of her classmates is just being a diva. Just sitting there crying, dead girl texted me. I'm sorry, emailed. Because, like Nick mentioned at the beginning, this is pre-text, but everyone has cell phones.
Everyone is emailing from their cell phones.
To be fair, Japan has always been a little ahead of us on that tech curve.
Yes.
Yeah, but we see later on they're using pens to write messages. Like, this tech is definitely ahead in some areas.
Yeah.
Anyway, this girl crying because that girl emailed her. So the girl's friends try to console this girl who got the email. And then one of them, we learn her name later, it's Arisu, comes over and asks Lane if she received any emails from Dead Girl, which Lane's like, I really don't do the whole computer thing, which makes sense because as she's looking at the blackboard during class, she uses her brain so hard that it causes her hands to steam. I don't know if she's part robot. I don't know if that's how she cooks her spaghetti, but that was weird. After school, she goes home, and lo and behold, her hat holder / coat holder is also her computer. In this world, I think the general term for computers is Navi.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the brand name. I think that's just what they're called.
Hey, listen.
What's it? Oh, I get it now. Navi. Anyway, wow. Over my head.
The way her computer is buried in the corner is just like, okay, this girl is criminally offline. I've never seen it before, but here it is.
For me, I looked at it and was like, is that a large Pokédex?
Yes, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's definitely like a kid's computer.
She's got that VTech Navi.
Actually, as a note, the series contains extensive references to Apple computers specifically, as the brand was used at the time by most of the creative staff. So there's a lot of like references or plays on like the brand names and various like products and stuff by them.
I can actually say that now that you mention it. Lane turns on her computer because she's curious if she got an email, and she uses, her voice password to enter in, and her Navi talks to her and lets her know that she does have an email from Chisa, and I guess their emails talk to them, or this is all in her head. Chisa tells her that she's still alive in the Wired, where God lives.
I'm
You know
guessing
nothing
that
of my work.
I'm guessing that they had the voices just because it's like a visual medium, but you don't want to sit there and just be like, "Oh, I'm reading an email."
See,
Well, they do.
I will
They
say
do that with the psychedelic lights and use the words there.
that's true. Well, so I have notes about that whole theming. I took it that like especially here for like it is because she does have like that baby's first computer that it is extra like, oh, I'll read this out loud to you. You might not know how to use a keyboard yet.
Well, she pulls it over eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, After this whole scene, she goes out to have supper with her mom and her sister. Her mom, who gives no crap about anything in this world,
Oh, the fucking
Me
family
too.
dynamics at this dinner.
and her sister. I will say, I feel like there's a story there that I don't know watching these episodes, but for the sake of this, her sister is just typical older sister. Like, I have no attachment to her one way or the other.
Mm.
Uh, After supper, uh, her dad gets home, and good lord, this man. He he's the first creepy person in a non-normal creepy way. He is super obsessed with computers. He has like what, 6 computer screens? And he gets excited because Lane asks him if she can have an upgraded Navi or a new Navi, and apparently he doesn't care because that's his passion is computers. And, father-daughter bonding moment, absolutely, you're getting older, so you need a new Navi. I'm taking that statement because it's pretty close to what he says at face value, that because she's becoming a teenager, she should have something that's not meant for 6-year-olds.
Yeah.
And so he agrees.
This scene is one of the most memorable things to me because when I was growing up, my dad was this dude. Like this, my dad was the guy who in the 90s had like multiple CRT monitors on the same table. And like when I was like 5 years old, he had like the computer case, the tower was as tall as I was because it had like 16 drives in it just to store so much data. So it's just like I look at this dude and I'm just like, oh yeah, that's what a dad is like. Yeah.
I can't say my father is like that.
That's
Uh,
funny too, because for me, it's like similar but different in that we had a computer in our house very early because my dad worked for IBM for a bit. Um, but it was always like, oh, you're not allowed to touch that. Like, it's just this machine in the corner kind of thing for me.
for me, it's I had my first computer at 17. But I'm also old. Than you guys. Uh, so he agrees to get her a new Navi, which is nice. Uh, Afterwards, we switch to the next day. And I will say I am assuming because this is a very weird sequence. They
Mm-hmm.
show her once again riding the train to school. And the train stops because there was an accident. And she looks out the train door, which is now open, to see what appears to be red liquid dripping from the wire, which would be weird if they hit a person and somehow the blood got up there. But fortunately, it doesn't matter too much because she's only gained the ability to teleport to 15 different spots, including right in front of the train tracks where she watches a girl run at her in front of the train, who has just 2 facial expressions, which you see at the same time as she gets hit.
Yeah, it's well, and then when they cut away from this sequence, I think she's like waking up in class or something. So I think this is
Yep.
supposed to be like a dream, but like
Pay
yeah,
attention, it's on the test.
the this whole dream sequence is pretty, like, again, it is a show not being afraid to be weird and be like, no, we are going to make things surreal. We are going to make things sort of like uncomfortably unexplained in a lot of ways. But they do such a, like, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know if this is enjoyable, but they are doing it well.
We're pretty much to the end of the episode where Lane is walking home or to the train station. You know, it's really one of those things. She's walking on the street and she walks past Chisa like it's a normal day. She turns around because it's strange and Chisa smiles and swirls away. And end episode 1.
They end on a like a shot over the city, which reminded me of FLCL. Just like the way that they always love to show like the giant iron on the horizon. I feel like this city is like more mechanized and overrun with cables, though.
I agree. The world's loudest cables.
They're so loud. Oh my god.
This is what the world sounds like to me most of the time.
Yes, that's actually like this whole first episode, and very much in the next episode too, but like I feel like there is so much like a reading here of just like, oh, Lane is like super autistic, because very much like this show loves to, not only does it like linger so much, but a lot of times that is so that like it is lingering on like small details, and the way that it's shot is like, here, like even with the blood dripping off the wire, like it is kind of shot that it's like, this is something that, you know, Lane is noticing that kind of goes unseen to everyone else. And the hum of the wires and the tapping on the blackboard whenever she's in class is just like, this is like the autistic experience of everything is sensory overwhelming all the time forever. Like I can't not get that reading of this show anymore, because it's just so, yes, it's so, this is what it's like.
Like, that buzzing is what this basement sounds like to me all the time, just because we have so many computers and shit down here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it used to be worse when before we had, you know, LCD monitors. When everything was CRTs, those were the loudest whines in the world that you can only hear if you're like under 26 years old.
Feel like we were just called out there, Bob.
Hey, what'd you say?
Listen, I can. I'm the one in control of OBS. I can run the dog whistle test on all of us. I won't,
I
because it would be
remember.
very bad.
It
I
probably
remember being a
wouldn't
kid and
work
watching
on
TV.
anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yes, that's how's everybody. First episode. You know what? We'll save this after the second episode, because they love to. These first two episodes really do just like feel like they go back to back. So we should get right into episode 2, girls.
This episode starts at a rave, which is kind of opposite of the first episode, but not, because we were outside of a bar for the first episode, and in this one we're inside of, maybe not a bar, but definitely a party where anything goes. They have drugs, they have crazy lights, they have girls with gas masks.
Cyber drug nightclub.
Fortunately, we have our groovy psychedelic light person to put in words to explain everything to us. Thank you, words. We show a guy who takes a special electronic drug, which they name, and that actually eludes me. I didn't write it down.
You wouldn't download a drugs, would you?
Absolutely download some drugs. I think it's called
Excel.
Excel? Yes.
Excel. That's right, because the world just slows down around him.
You can get so high
Just
on
like
spreadsheets.
when I start to run Excel at work.
He takes it and he starts staring around because everything is slowing down. At this point, we'll change scenes because Lane's there. She's heading to school. And
Wait, I have a comment about this drug that he takes. Is
Okay.
it this scene that we like see the whole thing where it's like the pill and then he cuts it open and then takes the
Yes. Where
Yeah.
it's really gross, like it's in water.
Yeah, but like I would have thought the whole point of the pill was to make it easier to swallow, because that thing does not look like it's easy to swallow. Because it's
You
like
mean
a
with the
little,
spikes in it?
yeah, it's a little like metal millipede thing.
I think it's so it'll stick to the side and stay longer.
Ugh.
Yeah, that thing looked utterly uncomfortable to ingest in any manner.
It's like a fishing lure.
I was thinking that, or like you'll see in like military science fiction, the little frag grenades with the spikes in them that stick
Yeah.
to. That's exactly where my mind was like, oh, I want nothing to do with that near any part of me.
A brute sticky
He enjoyed
grenade.
it though.
Oh, he loves the stuff.
Lane's heading to school after they switch scenes, and she comes across the stranger and has quite possibly the weirdest encounter, because yes, while he is creepy and staring, she's creepy and staring back, and then runs off. Like it's in its own way perfect little kid.
This is what it looks like when you roll a 2 on a stealth check.
She makes it to school and meets up with Mo, Larry, and Curly, or Arisu and her 2 obnoxious friends. They went to a rave the night before, and they saw someone who looked just like her. But it couldn't have been her because, that girl was cool and Lane kind of boring.
This is
Uh,
this friend
like-
group that they have.
They're douches to her. But continuing with who Lane is, I think she's oblivious to the fact that that's how they are.
Yes. Like there's something about this friend group that is like so believable middle school friend group to me, because it's just like they're not friends because they enjoy each other's company. They're friends because like they just hang out because they're in like the same class or whatever. But it's just like you got the one who hates Lane, the one who's like, "Hey, you shouldn't pick on Lane. She's a weirdo." And then the other one who's just like, "What do you mean Lane's weird? She's just another person." And like Lane kind of not getting it. It's like the dynamic between them is like realistically low key rancid. I don't know. It worked for me so well.
They get to class, and this is where we see Arisu texting Lane or emailing. I'm going to confuse them because that's what it looks like when she's typing, like the weirdest face on her face.
We can just say texting when it's like on their phones.
It was so strange, the face she was making. They invite her to the rave, and Lane's like, "No, I'll pass this time. I have to go home and knit a scarf."
As you do.
After class, her drugs finally kick in, and she comes across a creepy ghost person and a bunch of shadow people who float through her and run by. As happens at school. And she makes it home to, sign for the FedEx package for her new Navi, which was in like 5 boxes.
Oh yeah.
Well, and when we see it set up, it's not 5 boxes though.
Yeah, you got like the monitor, and you got like the tower, and you got like the power supply.
Yeah, this dude he is buying parts piecemeal, and he's going to install Linux on the whole thing when they're done.
Don't worry. I can see it too.
I just want to point out that this delivery man, this is part of an extended universe. This dude goes on to work at the Nerve headquarters at Mission Command. So keep that in mind.
I thought this looked familiar. Oh. So, don't worry about it, Bob.
That's an Easter egg for me and Chuck.
Her dad was going to build her computer after supper, but Lane just has that face of saying, "Do it now." And he's like, "Oh, you really want to get on the computer, huh?" And so he gets it built. She puts in her new password of "Hello Navi," and finds out she has no emails. But I don't know if they show her getting a text to get or to come to the rave, I think she does, and
Yeah.
ends up deciding to go because her family is like the most open family ever, and they're like, just be home by midnight if I had to guess.
If they even notice her leave.
Who's gonna knit the blanket now? But she goes to the rave, apparently dressed like the very normal person she is. She's going to this place just to hang out and have a good time, not to, you know, be like her friends who are wearing
Not to
clothes that may not be
party.
appropriate. Yeah.
But yeah, because like Alice is the one who texted her and was like, "Hey, we're going out. You really should come." And it's just like Alice is pushy, but you can tell she's the one who's just like, "Hey, I just want to help Lane come out of her shell." Like she's got good intentions, but also this is so not Lane. So like I'm surprised we said nothing about Lane's teddy bear pajamas in the first episode.
Nope.
But like it's you almost like, would she have shown up in that? It's like, no, she looks like a normal person, not a nightclub person, more like a cafe person, but she tried.
Mm-hmm. But don't worry, they'll help her next time. Her friends are hanging out, and then we find out that this is a circular story because the guy from the beginning of the story is still having his trip, and there's no security at this rave, in case you were wondering, because he brought in a gun and starts shooting. I see two people are down, I'm going to assume dead, in front of him, and everyone's just running crazy.
Bob,
One of her friends falls down and they want to run out.
would you say he just came in and just started blasting?
You could. The party hit the floor, that's for sure.
Oh my god, yes.
Too
Uh,
soon.
but Arisu, is her name Alice? I thought it was Arisu.
So Arisu is like this sort of katakana close enough to Alice. I Japanese stories occasionally do love to use Alice, especially because of like Alice and Through the Looking Glass and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So there's been a lot of Arisus in. There's been some theories that in Final Fantasy VII, the reason why nobody knows if it's Eris or Aerith is because it's Alice, and since there is no like direct translation, that's why you ended up with both of those at different points.
I can see that too.
Yeah, but in the dub, they do just make her straight up Alice. So
Okay. I watched the subtitled. So she notices that Lane is just standing there staring at the guy because that's just how Lane is.
mm-hmm.
And we're like, oh no, this poor girl, she doesn't understand what to do. So we find out she's using some sort of weird power, maybe, question mark, on the shooter because he stares at her saying, the wired should not be mixing with the real world. You shouldn't be here. And Lane, I forget what she says to him,
She
but
says,
we're all connected.
yeah, whether it's in the real world and a wired, we're always connected to other people."
And that was just too much for him. And he ends up shooting himself.
And I'm like, yeah, man, I get it. I feel the same way when I have to face the truth about people are always connected. So, I get it. I've been there. Ugh.
Uh, and that's
That's
essentially
it.
the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, blood dripping off Lane's face.
Start with a bang, go out with a bang. Why not? Yeah, the fact that this will not be the last time that Lane basically philosophizes someone into killing themselves is, I mean, I think it's hilarious, but I might have issues. Yeah, so now that Lane's kill counts, her KD ratio is going up, we're gonna jump ahead to episode 6. Kids, if you would like a quick sort of gap filler on what happened in the in between episodes,
Yes, please.
hell if I know, man. I don't know. You think You think it would help to know with this show? Come on.
I'm so mad at you now because I was gonna say that would really fucking help.
Okay, so I guess for the audience listening, just know that she inherited $1 billion and somehow believes that her computer can be cooled by water on the ground.
Well, okay,
Okay, sure.
so all right. I'll give you this much. Basically, and again, I think this goes to readings of the autistic experience, but like Lane is spending more and more time online because she sort of like when she is interacting through her computer, she is actually coming out of her shell to the point where she is like literally a different person. That is very much what the show is about. Which is like that's part of why I actually thought this was a good cut from 2 to 6 because we saw her like we have now seen like her room setup keeps upgrading throughout the show. So she went from baby, Spider-Man, my first laptop, to the high-end thing that like her dad bought her at the top of the line. And now she's running some home brewed liquid cooled stuff. Like when this episode starts,
Liquid cooled is putting it lightly.
well,
She has a pressure cooker.
yeah,
A literal pressure cooker.
we'll get to that in a minute, but like so basically what we end up getting is a lot about her like finding so I didn't actually watch the other episodes in between. I kind of just was like, I think this is the one I remember, and it was, and when it felt like an okay transition, I just stuck with it. But like it is about see like it kind of goes off and is about other stuff because sometimes it's just about like Lane watching what's going on with other people and groups on the internet. There is stuff about the Knights. I think we start to hear some stuff about that. We get to see Lane be there are questions about Lane, and like a lot of people are noticing that there is another girl who looks exactly like Lane but with like a totally opposite personality that they're seeing. Like some people say they see her in the real world, some people say they see her online. So but there really is this like yes, like there is a thing about like, oh, is there a second Lane or am I having MPD? So it's I don't even know which one is which. There's stuff that goes on about like Alice and rumors about a relationship with her and a teacher. That might actually happen between this and the next episode. I'm not sure. That's
in the next episode.
Okay. But like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes on around. But the fact that like we don't actually need to know too much of that is a thing. It's very much about like we watch Lane exploring the web, and there's a right. Okay, one of the episodes is Chuck, you might know this. They do a sword art online. There's a MMO that kids are getting sucked into, and she has to go explore that. And there's it's like, oh, let's go see why all these kids are becoming like they kind of do like episodes that you would find in other series just around this to sort of explore
Would you believe my mind, instead of going to SAO, which should have been the direct one-to-one, actually went more with oh god, and I just blanked out about it.
Mm-hmm.
Dot hack.
Yes, dot hack.
Yes.
Dot hack. That's where it went to because I was like, I flashed back real hard to like high school on a Saturday night. Like, what's this show about a kid getting stuck in a video game?
Yep, very much.
Me too. Dot hack. Didn't feel left out at all. I don't even.
Dot.
Look after later.
Oh God, yeah.
Listen, maybe we can throw that on season 2. I don't know. Listen, we'll come back around to it. But yeah, so like, it almost feels like a lot of the other episodes are just sort of like side stories to Lane's development. When like we at some point she meets, I think she does meet God, but then he has news for her
later on.
Yeah, listen, shuffle the episodes together. Tell me if you could tell the difference. Except for how
these pictures are the same.
Except for the first two. That's at the end conversations.
Yeah, the main narrative progression to tell the timeline is how complex is her computer at any given point.
You're not wrong.
Okay, so how does this episode start?
It actually just opens with Lane's dad knocking on her door,
Mm-hmm.
just checking on her, and you know there's a problem when the guy who's obsessed with computers is freaking out at his daughter's setup.
Uh-huh.
And he's not. And if I was him, I'd be upset that there's all this water on the floor. She is ruining the value of that house by a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And with all those unkempt wires.
Exactly. Just hanging around, and she's looks like she's napping, but she's communing. She's communing with the wired.
She is so
Uh,
blissed out.
I don't
I'm
know
so
if
high, you guys.
I don't know if it's reality or if it's just who she is. I put her psychosis, but I don't even think it's her psychosis. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it probably gets explained later.
Eh,
Uh, although I do have a question.
I wouldn't put
How
money
does
on it. Yeah.
how does she afford all this stuff? Does her dad really just buy it for her?
Sure.
So I think part of it is like because she is like sort of making friends and like the other thing you got to know is like not only is she like coming out of her shell personality wise, but she is also essentially like an
An
online
heiress?
computer prodigy. So I think as she's making connections with people, it's also like, oh hey, you're it's like, you know, it's like when coders help each other out and give each other code, and sometimes it's just like, oh, I've been trying to work on one of these. It's like, oh, don't worry, I'll send you my old one, and then you can work on this and help me by, you know, pay me back by, you know, reading over my code. I think there is very much a like her, because it is still about connections to other people and about like it is more a reflection of her like online fluency, but I think there's also sort of like a she is you know, making connections and either scavenging her own parts or build like, because like a lot of stuff that she adds is like some really elaborate stuff, but it is like I think that's why, you know, the water is all over the floor, because it is like it's not a good liquid cooling solution. It is one with like leaks and problems, which I have to imagine because she's like, you know, bodging all this together herself.
And she's what, 12, 13?
Something like
So
that, yeah.
middle school age.
Yeah.
Uh, in fact, when she's at school, though, her friends want to hang out with her, and she's like, "What do I need to go outside for? I have all my friends on the wired."
Mm-hmm.
And it's at this point I realize I'm on the same side as the mean girls.
Uh-huh. Oh, I'm totally in Lane's corner. Just like, yeah, my friends are at home and in my pocket. My friends are in the magic boxes.
I don't like being called out.
What's weird is she says this, but she still goes out with them.
Yeah.
And she does look a little more modern, like Mary Tyler Moore throwing her hat into the sky. Uh, and speaking of the sky, there's a bunch of children worshiping the sky, as
Praise
one
the sun.
does.
They're praising
Yes,
the
praise the
sun.
sun. Praising the sun with a naked girl in front of it.
Uh-oh.
Praise the sun and the moon.
Uh-oh, Lane.
Yeah,
Hey, Lane. Hey, Lane,
I'm
why are
I'm,
you the goddess?
I'm hoping the children are using their hands to block out, any impropriety.
Oh my god. Well,
Which fortunately, it does not cross that level with this show.
we didn't talk about the ending thing with this show yet,
That's
but
that's another thing at the end that we'll
uh-huh.
talk about.
We're gonna listen. Anime. Come on,
Yes.
anime.
Yeah, Steins Gate's not feeling so bad anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So
No, yeah. Maybe not.
I'm not saying it's gotten better. It's just not feeling as bad.
Lane heads home because she's wondering what's going on, and oddly, I don't think she cares that her naked avatar was in the sky. She's just wondering about the children worshiping it. She goes online, and this is, as my viewing experience, the first time I've seen her interact in The Wired.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just walking on a sidewalk where a pair of lips from the Rocky Horror Picture Show show up
Yep.
that she refers to as the Cheshire Cat.
Mm-hmm.
Bob, it's science fiction.
Well, so like I think there is a mix that like this is both like the way that she perceives it, as well as there are because, you know, like I said, is an episode that deals with like VR games and whatnot. So like I think there are elements of like a lot of times the Wired is essentially might as well be like a physical space of its own, a virtual space of its own. So like as much as it is maybe just like, artistic vision, we are going to make it a place you walk around, even if, that's not, it's not like full on dive in VR. I think there is an idea that like that is what it feels like to go in it.
I think they try to use this episode to explain it as well, oddly.
Yeah. It's we did see a little bit earlier, back when her dad checked in on her while she was, having her trip. And like they cut from that to her sitting in a cloud, like talking to lightning strikes or something. Like
That's my groovy psychedelic friend who sometimes put words on the screen.
right. But like I do love that as a, that is sort of a great metaphor for what it's like to talk to chat rooms. Like, so we got the show sort of, called out on texting nonstop. It called out on online connections being real connections. With the kids praising the sun, it called out TikTok trends. And with her talking to this formless cloud, it called out what it's like for Twitch streamers to talk to their chat. It's just like, yeah, I'm just talking to these voices, not really people, but just like talking to the formless shape known as online.
What up, chat?
Formerly known as Prince.
Oh my. Lane logging on. What's up, gamers? Let's get this dread.
Don't forget to check out my G Fuel.
Offer code NAVI20.
Oh, great.
listen.
No, I'm giggling. I'm supposed to be the focused one. So Lane's on her search sidewalk, and Cheshire Cat talks like he's the only one cool enough for Lane to talk to, but ends up just being a Google search engine.
Well, like he's like, yeah, I could find some stuff for you, and then she brings it up, and he's like, oh, I see you found it yourself. So it's just like, Lane, block his ass, send him to the Phantom Zone.
Through their conversation, we find out that there's a scientist who is also experimented on children, and he became known as a child killer.
The child killer scientist, all caps.
Because he's also connected to the Wired, she was able to teleport to him, and they have a conversation about how his experiment was all children are born with small psychic abilities, and he wanted to harness that ability. And in doing so, created a psychic explosion which killed all of the children.
They have the what's his effect from Steins Gate.
Yeah, the Reading Steiner.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, the more I listen to Bob describe this, the more I realize this is the anime that somehow all of our parents watched that made them afraid of the internet collectively.
Pretty much.
I mean, yeah, kind of.
I don't know how they got it, but they did.
The problem with the internet is that people are on it, honestly.
I mean, yeah, we are all connected, Nick.
I know. Hang on, I don't have my Glock on me. Yeah. Yeah, but just hanging out in the VR chat room, interrogating the child killer scientist, very normal teenage girl stuff to do.
And she set her clock to the correct time because any time later, and she would have missed this conversation because the old scientist dies at the end. And fizzles away. He got to die happy, oddly.
He logged off into the sky.
She's wondering now because he mentioned the Knights.
Yes.
Of Sidonia.
They're the Knights who say nay, actually.
Oh, I wish.
She leaves and is just ruminating.
Ruminating?
She's thinking real hard, staring at her ceiling, and she notices 2 red fireflies. And she thinks even harder and is like, oh, wait, that's not good. Goes to her window and sees 2 guys wearing like night vision glasses, I guess.
Yeah,
just staring through her window.
Goggles with laser sights.
And she's like, that's not normal, and runs outside too. Because, the last thing she heard was the Knights, and here are some people staring through her window. She runs outside saying, who are you? Actually, I don't even think she says anything, but the guy says, get down, as her pressure cooker explodes.
Get down, Mr. President.
Which, no joke, this thing had a pressure gauge,
Mhm.
and I'm assuming it's just for the liquid that was running through all of her coolant systems. And the guys tell her that we didn't do this. The Knights did. They planted a bug in her system,
Yep.
which
So
good for them.
okay, so all the stuff you've been complaining about, this is weirdly the most realistic thing because you could like sneak a Trojan runtime onto her computer that would just like start mining crypto, which would overclock the CPU and GPU and stuff and cause a lot of overheating, at which point all the coolant would overheat, which would build pressure and cause it to explode. That is weirdly the most like realistically feasible thing.
I'm so mad you tied our podcast to crypto.
Uh-huh. Listen,
Uh,
as long as it spends, we'll accept donations. Crypto does not spend.
the end of and this is the end of the episode is to just get in the vehicle and drive away.
Mm-hmm.
Boom.
Just like, we're not the Knights. The Knights blew you up. And she's just like, who? Yeah. Uh so there's another bit where like there's an episode about a boy who gets a crush on her, and then at the end she's like, all right, but what's the real deal? And he's like, you're right, I work for the Knights, sorry. Um there It's like the Knights, very much like who are the Knights and what their intentions are like becomes like the B plot central mystery of the show, next to just like what is the nature of consciousness and personhood. Um, but like yeah, that's I feel like if I was trying to sell the show more to y'all, I would have maybe focused on those. But I feel like that actually sells short because like this really surreal vibes heavy episodes are, I think, what is most memorable about the show, and like it when you think of the show, that is what you think of. Um so that's why I just left all the night stuff at a sort of on the fringes, even though it is like the nights are kind of the, MacGuffin that pushes things forward in a lot of ways. Like there's an element that like for as much as Lane is doing, progressing and growing on her own, there is extra pressure put on her development via the nights.
What about the days?
The day she is busy going to school. That's why it's always nights.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, no, she's a responsible student. Unlike some people that we'll find out more about as we go into episode 11, Infornography. Now,
Oh, you said it wrong.
I don't know what that is, but I'll know it when I see it.
I think it's this episode. I was debating whether to say this at the end of the episode or the end of our final notes or not, but I will say it now.
Okay.
Good for you for taking chances.
The
I
show
think
or
this is
me?
yes. I feel
Okay.
like this episode of all the episodes we watched in our entire show's run, this is the most I wouldn't say risky, but yeah. We'll just talk about the show
Yeah.
episode.
Let's talk about how the first half of this episode is basically a clip show music video.
Yes, it opens with a really gross kitchen and Lane literally connecting herself this time. She's got something on her lip, got some cheek patches.
She's gotten really wrapped up in her work.
Yep. And then we go into like flashback montage like you've never seen before. 7 minutes of guitars and drums. A lot of the stuff we've seen,
It
to be
is
fair.
it is jam band music. It is Fish. It is, Grateful Dead or something. It's like if you did not already take your edible, now's the time.
We see a character that looks like, Metal Cyclops. We see someone who looks like Jiren from Dragon Ball Super. Uh, there's laser faced guys, and one of them takes their mask off.
Mm-hmm.
It's and yeah, it's a lot. This is what I would call your infornography.
Yes, and that is very much on purpose. Like the fact that, like, in any other show, this would be like a regular clip show moment because it really like And this was the part that surprised me. I was like, oh, a clip show episode. Sure, this will help fill in the gaps that we missed. It really doesn't, both because when it's showing new things that were not in our selection, it's often without words or context or anything. And also, so much of it is from episodes we've seen. Like, it's like, yeah, no, there are dudes in a black sedan. Yeah, that dude did kill himself in the Cyberdrug nightclub. Yeah, Alice is a character.
It's a lot, a lot. After all this happens, we see Lane appear, and fortunately, God, in quotations,
Mm-hmm.
is visiting her, and they have a conversation.
This dude who looks like a forgotten McDougal brother.
I'm pretty sure he was the one playing the guitar for the whole flashback scene. Lane feels insulted the way he talks to her, but he explains that she is not hardware. There's no way to connect her like that. She is software.
Right. Well, so they do kind of say what she was doing with the wires and what that whole music video was representing, which is that she has basically uploaded an emulator of a Navi into her brain, so her brain is now running a computer. Is what's kind of happened here.
Ah, makes sense.
So like the trippy flashback is like, all of the information that we've seen and that's on the internet all flowing into her brain at once because now she's logged on permanently. And like he's talking like, oh, you're gonna overload your systems, and she's all like, hey, am I a machine? Because I don't like that you're talking about me like I'm a machine. And he's like, no, you're not a machine, you're the software on the machine. And she's just like, I don't think that's better, but okay.
Then she has a weird not dream with the guy who shoots himself from episode 2 and Chisa. And what's interesting is when we first see Chisa episode 1, she seems all happy and eager. But in this, I don't want to say dream sequence, but dream sequence, Chisa's more reserved. She's like, dying sucked.
It's like, it hurt.
Dying does suck.
But the guy who shot himself is like, no, it's not so bad. Here's a gun. Enjoy.
Yeah, no,
Do it yourself.
Shooting yourself rules, actually.
You won't know if you like it until you try it.
You know, that angel on one side, devil on the other. All these life's hard choices.
It's really fun.
And we don't really see a resolution other than we assume, obviously, Elaine doesn't shoot herself, whether in the magical world, in the dream world, or in reality. However, she grays out her hands somehow to go visit Arisu, who is having a hard time because someone has spread stories which happen to be true about her and a teacher.
Yes. So the sort of like reveal and spread of those rumors / true stories is like 3 episodes in between what has happened. What we've seen.
And part of me is wondering how this went because as a character, I like Arisu, but then to remember that she's a middle school student with a teacher kind of puts a negative spin on it.
Yeah.
And I like that they do not celebrate this.
Yeah. Like
it comes across as
I'm trying to remember exactly what it is because like I think there is an element of like age of consent sort of ignored for the present argument, but like it is sort of a consensual
well, you could tell that Arisu is not against it per se.
Yeah, like the problem isn't that like she's doing anything with the teachers. The problem is that like everybody is like finding out and rumoring about it because like if it got proven that it was true, that would ruin her reputation. Like she knows that it is not a good look, even if she doesn't actually have a problem with the relationship itself.
And then, it got out thanks to, she assumes Lane, because this person looked just like Lane. Don't worry, Lane's there in her gray gloves and striped shirt looking creepily through her door.
She's gone full Freddy Krueger mode.
It's not me. Don't worry, Alice, it's not me. I know you don't believe me, but you will believe me tomorrow when everyone forgets because I can do that, ha ha ha, and disappears.
Hey, listen,
Like,
I know it looked like it was me, and it might have been. I'm not sure yet. Also, there might be more than one you out there. Isn't that fucked up? Okay, gotta go. See you at school tomorrow.
so
That was you. Nah, it ain't me. That was you. Name me.
It wasn't me. Shaggy.
exactly. I saw you spreading rumors. Wasn't me. But anyway,
Saw you hacking on your Navi. It wasn't me.
wasn't me.
Hey, listen.
And Erisu is understandably concerned,
Mm-hmm.
I would hope so.
but oddly also seems to not hate Lane, just not like Lane.
Well, so she did just have a Dream Ghost version of one of her friends who she thinks hates her, but is very apologetic for a thing she claims she didn't do. And she says she's going to fix everything. And so she's just like, I think that's made things worse, but thank you. She just don't know how to feel at that point. Just like I am more at a loss for what to do now. Please help anyone. But it's okay.
We get to the end of, or the episode ends, and this is a long episode end, by the way. This is like the last 10 minutes. Erisu goes to school, and her two friends, who I'm assuming up to this point, between the last episode and this one that we watched, kind of distance themselves from her, the whole school teacher thing. And now they're running up to her. Hey, how's it going? Oh, do you see the cute teacher over there? Apparently someone likes him. And
Ooh.
And Erisu's all like, hey guys, I'm sorry about, and they're all interrupting her. What do you mean? Are you saying that it's you? Which confuses Erisu because everyone knew previously, and now they're all acting like she doesn't. And her friends wave over her back to say hello to Lane, who's slowly walking up, and Erisu turns around. And Lane, I guess, let out a little fart and did like a little half smile. And Erisu's like, holy crap, I bet you that one's gonna smell because she smiled.
Uh-huh. Oh,
And
Lane puts on her best I'm a real sicko smile. Oh,
and
it's
that's the end
great.
of the episode.
Yeah, and that's it. And Alice is just like, oh no, she's gone sicko. But how? Uh-oh,
It's over
Alice.
9,000.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's it. That is the episode. And I do just want to say in solidarity, one of my notes for this episode when we hit the music video part was just, yep, I sure did pick this episode because fuck everyone, myself included. So, I'm on your side about all this.
No, and I think it serves a purpose. And if you're going to watch a show, if you come across it accidentally, this could be the episode you get, and you're going to sit there like, what?
What the fuck?
Yeah,
What?
but like in the sense of being like vague, like unnerving through vagueness, it absolutely fits with the rest of the episodes we watched. It is
Oh,
like
absolutely.
totally the
If-
same vibe.
If this is something that you want to watch, this is honestly the perfect hook. If this is the first episode you watched, because you want to know, who the hell are all these people? Is that you, Cyclops? What's up with the laser heads?
I do want to know more about. They're not the Knight, which means they are just random Black Sedan agents. Like that's not okay. It's
G-men.
The G-men from Half-Life. It's time to uncork this bottle. Let's. We made it through these episodes really quickly, so I hope there's a lot to say overall because
That's either good or bad.
it's good or bad. Did we like this show?
But the silence is strong.
Go ahead, Bob. It's you gotta go.
Is that just a single question, or am I doing my full final thought?
Let's just start brief. Like, just like, are we
Okay. Did I like the show? I find it too disturbing.
Cool. All right.
once I get to further explanation, I'll explain why. But I will say I did not like the show because it was too disturbing
Sure.
with some of the decisions that it made.
Okay. All right. Chuck?
All right. Well, I'm gonna hold on. Let me grab my final thoughts because these are part and parcel.
Oh boy.
So,
Dragging out a huge binder, slapping it on the table.
no. It's just the big old sack.
Slapping it on the table.
Yeah, pretty much. Just hold on. There, it's on the table. So here's the deal. I don't think this is a bad show. Let me start with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do have critiques, but I need to start with that. I don't think it's a bad show. But I do feel I've seen what this is trying to do, and I feel like I've either seen it done, I don't know if better, but in a more palatable way.
Okay.
So I have a complex relationship with Akira, the movie.
Yes.
And I think you see where I'm going with this, Nick.
I mean, yes, the
Yeah.
child killer scientist accidentally built an Akira array out of children.
And I'll say I saw Akira not knowing what I was getting into late in the middle of the night, and like my, what was it, sophomore year? I'm pretty sure it was. Sophomore or junior. I ain't gonna lie, that movie kind of put me in a really messed up space
It does some stuff to you.
for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't appreciate that space. I don't like that space. And this started kind of dredging up feelings about that again.
Mm.
And that's why I say, like, I don't think this is bad. But something about like the presentation and the art style and the pace of the story, which, boy, I've got a real
Mm-hmm.
surprise twist for you on my feelings about that.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't just jive with me. Now I will say it feels very much a product of its time, because when we said 1998, the first thing I thought was like, I've seen a lot of this already in The Matrix.
Mm.
I'd rather just watch The Matrix again.
Yes, but The Matrix came out 2 years after this.
Was it in 2000? I thought it was in 99.
Yeah, still after.
And yes, I agree with you. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they copied The Matrix homework by any means. I'm just saying, I just feel like I'd rather watch The Matrix because that also feels of its time.
Hmm.
Yeah, like this is definitely this show to me is very much like of an era, like it's a snapshot of the time it was
Mhm.
made in, and I think it's great for that. And
Sure.
it's one of those shows that I think if you saw back then, like it
Right.
resonated strongly with you, but if it's something you're watching for the first time, like now, we do have so much other media that has touched on similar the same topics that
And
it
that's
doesn't feel as special.
kind of where I'm getting to. It's like, I think if I had seen this, especially if Akira had never been part of the formula, um, I think I would have a different appreciation for it. Like I said, I think it's good at what it's doing. It is definitely not for me anymore. At a different point, yeah, it probably could have very well been. That being said, I have zero desire to kind of follow this through. It just, I won't say it made me feel uncomfortable. There are just things it was doing I just didn't care for. And that's a me thing. And I, it's, it just, it ain't gonna float my boat. And that's fine.
When you say, it wasn't palatable, I think that's actually an incredible way to put it, because I do think it is a conscious choice on the part of the show to create something that is displeasurable. Yeah, like, the point of art is to evoke emotions, and an emotion this wanted to evoke is like being uncomfortable in your skin. And so, like, I think you're totally right. Like, I think it is not necessarily like a pleasurable experience to watch, but for me, like, when I look at this show, and part of why I think it is such a touchstone, I think that is like, admirable achievement in the realm of like creating art. It does such a good job of like daring you to enjoy the process of watching this show.
Sure, and I get that. And I'm gonna drag Steins Gate back into the light here.
Sure.
Comparing this to Steins Gate, at least Steins Gate for me had a couple jokes, had some laughs. Um, and I could at least have moments of what I felt were like a good lighthearted time here and there. This does take itself a bit too seriously for my liking, and I
Hmm.
do enjoy a good serious show. But to that same point, Nick, I'm gonna really surprise you here with this one. I'm gonna say a
Mm-hmm.
phrase, or bring up a description I'm pretty sure you never thought I'd say. I love a slow burn, right?
Yeah, I know
I
you do.
love a good slow burn. This was too goddamn slow for me.
I did it. I found the other end of the scale. Oh, I'm so happy.
And it's just like, God, I don't feel like we're actually getting anywhere yet. I don't. And maybe it's just because of like how the 4 episodes, and there were part. I'm not gonna lie, I felt really disjointed throughout a lot of it. So like, maybe that's it. But
I mean,
no, man, this is like this is one of those things like, nah, I'm out.
yeah.
And I get it's non-linear storytelling. I typically don't have a problem with that.
It is linear though. Like that's the thing. If you watch the other episodes, they do occur in order more or less.
Hmm.
You know, with the exception of like sometimes there are like dream sequences which are part flashback, part premonition. Sometimes there are, you know, things that happen sort of metaphorically, but
Hmm.
generally every like and you know, if you do go and watch the other episodes, they're happening in chronological order. I think they also feel super disjointed because they feel like oh, we're telling like we are stopping. It just goes on about like something else, like even like
Sure.
the way that Kids is an episode about her tracking down the child killer scientist, and you're just like, oh, we're just going off and doing this thing on the side. That's what all of the other episodes feel like to me. You know, once we get past like the first 2 or 3 about just like, oh, she's like super autistic, but now she's opening up on the computer and she's becoming a person. Like after that, it's just like the show goes weird for a while, and then at the very end, it's just like, okay, who is Lane? Who are you? Do you know yet? You're about to figure it out? Like that is like the ultimate, you know, uh uh success you know, of the main character arc, is that she figures out who she is, you know.
Yeah. Like I said, I can kind of see where what you're saying is happening there with what I've got. But like I say, it's just man, it is a slog for me.
Yeah, and that,
And I am so surprised. I'd never thought I'd actually have one of those moments like, oh, huh,
and I mean,
weird.
like that's the thing, like I it's cool, like as the one who brought this show, I don't feel defensive in you saying that. I think it is so interesting that like this show made you find that sort of other side of your tolerances. I like that's the thing, like I think sometimes, you know, that might be a thing. Like when we do like a normal slow burn show, I feel like, oh, you're about to do it. You're just taking your time with it. But this one is so far into taking your time with it that it's just like, no, my point is to take my time. We are doing this. I'm not just wasting your time. The time taken is the point, you know? And so maybe that's why like I'm not saying the show isn't like a slog to get through. It is the slowest, like but that's also like the nice part of it, right? Is like this is a short show. This is not even like a 30 episode thing. This is like 12 and out. If you want to watch this, you can watch this entire thing in 2 weekend evenings. You don't even have to spend 2 whole days watching it, you know? But also you might
Yeah,
not want to because it like I said, it dares you to enjoy your time with it. It'll make you think, it'll make you consider things, and that doesn't make it like an enjoyable show. It's just so interesting. And like I said, I think that's why it's a touchstone. Not because it's like enjoyable, not because it's like perfect storytelling. It is just it is a work that pushes buttons. It is an artistic piece. It pushes buttons of the audience in a way that like nothing else did or sometimes even has sense. Like there's a reason, like going back to the show, for there are other shows that have dealt with the topics and the questions and sort of like the same sci-fi elements, but I can't think of anything else that is really, you know, pushes buttons in terms of someone's comfort level in the same way. Like I think that is what makes it like worth going back to see that. Not to have a fun time with it, but to be like, oh right, this is a show can push your buttons this way.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I guess I just found other shows that push buttons. I just a bit more enjoyable. But again, it's a me thing.
No, not enjoying it is the button it's pushing. There's nothing I see like contrasting about that. Bob, you sounded like you had other lots of end game notes to bring up. What do you got?
It's weird. It's like we're in a reverse zone. It's anti-day. Chuck, congratulations. You are the nice one.
Oh boy. Well, I didn't think I was that mean, but okay, wow.
We're gonna gloss over fully going into the end credits. But I bring it up to bring up the point. When I watched the Animatrix, I did so kind of because I enjoyed the Matrix, but because all the other kids at school talked about it and it was cool because it was edgy. And I watched it and it was like, yeah, this is edgy. I'm part of the cool kids, so I'm edgy too. And I feel like that's all this show was, pushing boundaries just to push boundaries and serving real no further purpose than that.
I kind of see that, yeah.
Like, why have that end credit if not just to be like, look at the envelope that we pushed? And they focused way too much zooming in on lips. I don't know if that was this guy's fetish or what. Good lord, get off the lips.
Oh, I didn't even notice the lips that much.
Everyone
they
has
were a
lips. Did you
thing.
know that?
They're all connected.
It was always zooming in on smiles or half smiles or weird smiles or the lady with the two faces getting hit by the train. Like, the blood and guts didn't bug me. And oddly, the whiteout scenes, like whenever Lane would come out of her house and walk down the steps where you really couldn't see the steps, but you knew that that's what those were, that didn't bug me at all. That was fine, though those art directions. But the way that they portrayed people's faces was deeply disturbing. Sometimes it was surreal in a way that, for me, let me add this part. This is just my description for me, what I think. This is not spread on anyone else. I found to be, and maybe you're correct that was the point of this show, is just to disturb you on a personal level. In which case, congratulations, it succeeded. And to be fair, it did, for the show being in '98. It called out a lot of stuff. This is for the people of today who want modern day references. One could posit that this is a Ready Player One, where people are trying to escape reality, go into a fictional world. And that's what Lane is doing to escape reality. She's going into a place where she feels comfortable. It's... I feel like every episode had to have something that was, ooh, that's edgy. It reminds me of the 90s X-Men, where everyone had to have blades on their outfit. That way they looked really super cool.
90s X-Men?
Or 80s, if you would prefer.
And you don't mean the cartoon, you mean the actual...
I mean the comic book comics.
Okay.
Or when I was a kid, I remember watching The Simpsons and being the only kid in my class who watched Simpsons because my parents allowed it. So I was edgy, I was cool because I was doing something that is not norm. I think that's
South
the only...
Park.
I think that was the only purpose of this show, was to be like, look what we're doing. To me. So no, sir, I do not like it.
I'm having a little bit of trouble seeing it as only edgy, which for all the shows we watch, I often get that vibe from a show. I can kind of see it. Like, I think part of maybe why that doesn't land to me is like, like I've been saying all along, I cannot not see this show as like an autism experience reading at this point. And even stuff like focusing on faces and lips and expressions, and they're always, off or unsettling in some sort of way, like that I think that also rolls into all of that, like just being somebody who like over scrutinizes and still misses social cues.
That's also a big theme in identity and just like your relationship with your own body and stuff, and like
I can
the
agree with that.
individual pieces.
I can see that.
um and I will say that in the episodes I picked, there's no resolutions to anything really. Part of how I remember this show is like it's the kind of show where like the character comes to a resolution but is never forced by the show to share it with the audience. So it's just like, hey, okay, I get it now. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Show's over, but like, who is the internet god? Who, like, what is this is a show where eventually Lane has a fist fight with herself or like a doppelganger in order to like come to resolution on these things, like, but it happens very late and very sparsely, and like in that sense I can absolutely see that it's just like, yeah, we're kind of just showing a lot of unpleasantness occurring. I suppose I can definitely see it like that. But like,
That's not to dismiss how you feel, because I can see
oh yeah, no,
100% where this is coming from a person who is spectrum coded, who sees the world differently, and it's nice to see that focus on that one character. For me, if this show was just narrowed in, focused on that, but to have all of these horrible things happen around her, and then for her to investigate horrible things.
yeah. I mean, I want to
That
say,
she kills people with logic.
I mean, at least she doesn't mean to kill those people, even though it does keep happening. Like kind of to go back to Chuck and what you were saying about like no points of levity. I laugh at this show a lot, but I think it is very much in like a kind of like a gallows humor found funny, like it's just like, oh, some of this stuff is dark and it is presented dark, but also it's kind of ridiculous the lengths to which it's like, it's so serious that it wraps around to being ridiculous. But that's also because I've seen, I think I've seen the show all the way through once, and I've definitely watched these episodes a couple of times. And it's, you know, too long burn as it may be, I do think it's the kind of show where like a couple of watches and you can pick up more as things go on. That doesn't mean you want to. Like I really do think part of why I am so like apt and ready to approach this and discuss it is because like I am carried along by that, autism coded reading the entire time. I'm just going like, yes, this is what it's like to walk around in the world and hear the hum and the noise all the time. So then it's just like I always have that like feeling of resonance the whole time in the show. So I can absolutely see that, like, if you don't have that, then I can see why the rest of the stuff is anywhere from doesn't land to push away.
What you thinking, Joe?
I mean, I basically said my thoughts on it. It's definitely of its time. I think it's great, and it did great things when it came out. I think its message has been echoed several times by this point by other shows that people are more familiar with. Um, I don't know. I still like it though.
That's good.
Yeah, it's very very much a product of, like, talking about like the ending and the idea of sexualizing this middle schooler, like, that's not a good look. But I think even that part we can kind of chalk up to, that is kind of what you would do with your main character at the time. Like that is the kind of shot at the the kind of pin-up art you use for your ending that would become the desktop backgrounds of otakus for the next handful of years until the next show came out that would really be a touchstone to that level. That's just what pinups were like. So it's like it's not good, but like it's also not like out of place for the time. Like I can see that not being a choice specifically in the hands of the show, but in the hands of the trends.
Do I like it? No.
No.
Does it make sense? Yes.
Yeah. It unfortunately makes sense. Do we have anything else we want to say before we move on to all of our listings?
I do not.
I'm pretty uptight.
Okay. Then let's see where all of these things fall on our rankings. Number 1, let's talk about that opening.
That's an easy one for me.
Okay.
Because, let's see here. As I review our list, suddenly Arashi no Naka de Kageyete turns into a bop.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Oh, you found it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. This was just the worst. And
I
would rather
that.
I would rather rewatch this entire series 12 times than listen to Sixpence None the Richer sing again. Or whomever this pop 90s female band is.
It's a opening song that really asks, what if God was one of us, Wow, that would have been a better fit for the show too.
Oh wow,
yeah. It kind of reminds me what this is like the like the dyed blonde singers inspired by the intro to Monster. That was the one that had like the children's choir or choral something.
Yes.
Okay, so we're saying, are we saying, is it the worst or is it beating?
No. I'll put it in 29.
Lovers? We'll put okay.
I'll put it better than We Were Lovers. Although honestly, they're interchangeable. I feel like they're almost the same song.
Yeah,
different songs. Boa. Is it bow?
I don't know what that accent on Yo is. Is it? Bleh? Nope, it's not that.
I do like that the name of the song is duvet, which is a piece of furniture.
I mean, it's kind of like a blanket.
Yeah.
Isn't
I
it?
thought it was a couch.
I know you can get a cover for it, whatever it is. Okay. Android waifus.
Boy, oh boy, this one is
spoiler.
hard.
Not
even spoiler because
hardware.
while she's she's software.
Oh, okay.
The hard part is I could put her in runner-up.
So hold on to that. Not to play robot devil's advocate here, Bob, but all Android waifus are arguably software.
No, I'm not disagreeing. I would almost put her in Android waifu, but she herself is not an android.
Well,
waifu.
I don't want to. Well, okay.
No, that's a good point.
Actually, like I don't want to give too much away, even though it sounds like nobody's really gonna follow up on this one except for maybe me.
I already know.
But yeah, like there is an argument by the end that she is a totally synthetic. So you remember when we come back, when God is there, when God McDougal is there.
Software.
Yeah, you know, was one of us. When we pan over the disgusting kitchen. That is because her family has not been there for a while, because one of the episodes is basically like kind of revealing that her entire family is sort of synthetic and goes on the fritz, and then like it is the idea of she has a family is a facade that just sort of disappears. Whether that is literal or is like an effect of she has magic time traveling god powers because she uploaded a computer into her brain is sort of up for question, but like by the end, there is this idea of just like, you might be a synthetic person. You might have been a computer program first and then given a body, which I think would qualify her.
I am willing to go halfway and stick with put her in runner-up,
Okay.
putting her in the first spot.
Okay. Lane. From Lane. Okay. She's our top runner-up. Okay.
Yes.
Also want to throw this out there. What about her baby's first Navi, a computer with a nice female voice, who is willing to
No.
to
She does
greet
she
you
does nothing
warmly
for me.
and
She-
wants to
Nope.
fulfill all your needs and okay.
Hard pass.
All right. I just wanted to make sure it was
Nope,
considered.
I appreciate it. I don't think we had any anime horses.
I mean, her computer was sort of a workhorse, but not in that sense.
I also don't think there are any runner-ups for there.
And there's also not a pretty horse. Wow, we put a whole pretty horse thing. Okay. Shout out to
I
King
will-
Halo.
I do believe there was a most flying pussyfoot, though.
Okay.
That would be that train
Oh yeah.
where she freaks out and everyone just stares at her.
Was that right before they hit the girl, or was that the first time when she was just going to
I
school?
think that was the first time where she's yelling at the wires to be quiet.
Okay. Is the train that interacts with a dead body more Flying Pussyfoot? Because there was a lot of murder on the Flying Pussyfoot. I mean, also it was the
I would
same
say
train,
so.
same train
Yeah.
line. All right.
Yeah.
Well, this is a ranked list, so how Flying
Oh.
Pussyfoot is it?
I will put it at
As-
above the crash satellite.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say we've only have 3 actual trains on this list, which is the Flying Pussyfoot, the train car with the goats on it from Carol and Tuesday, and now the
Murder wire train.
Lane rides to school that
Planes,
maybe
lanes, and
hit
automobiles.
that girl in a dream from Lane. Okay. That's our new number 6.
Yes.
Um
I don't think there's any representation, but happy Pride Month to date when this show is.
I want to say when you get to the end, the idea of Alice and Lane being very important to each other, like the idea that Alice is someone for whom Lane will sort of mess with the flow of reality, I think there is something to be said there. That being said, we barely saw it in these episodes, so I don't know if we can speak on that.
I would actually prefer to think of Lane as asexual.
I like
More
that.
concerned about computers.
Okay. I mean, you can care about a person and be asexual.
True.
You can care about a computer, Bob.
Also, are you saying asexuals aren't queers in Pride Month?
No, I am not. They are included. That's why I'm mentioning it.
I know. I'm taking the piss. Is what I'm doing.
Just chopping your bust.
I'm on the Pork Chop Express over here. Toot toot. That was a semi truck. Okay, that's gonna do it for our list then.
Is the Pork Chop Express a flying pussyfoot?
I would say so.
Does it have real pork chops?
It might.
Only expresses.
We don't know what he's hauling. Is he hauling anything? No, because when he drives it and he runs into that 3-way Chinatown fight, he's not hauling any cargo.
I demand a formal investigation.
All right. Well, while we get the paperwork together for setting up an investigation committee, it is time to pick what we're watching on our next episode. Who is doing the honors?
All
I
right,
believe that's
so
Joe.
yeah, we're in the existential crisis tier. We've watched Fate Zero and Serial Experiments Lain. We have 3 more shows in the tier. We have we have They're All Dead again. We have Giant Meat Robot Shouldn't Be an Issue, right? And we have Remember That Marcy's Playground song, Sex and Demons. Yeah, this is going to be a long night.
Can I just say what an incredible list we have remaining? This is whoever wins, we lose, and I'm so happy.
I'm ready for a long night. Bring it on. Sex and
All
demons
right.
it is.
All right. We will be watching Wicked City.
Sounds like a nice place.
It's great. All right, this is great. I'm so excited. Good. Well, now that that's settled and we're all revved up one way or another. Chuck's redlining over there. That's going to do it for today's episode of Deep in the Weebs. Thank you all for joining us, and until next time we see you, we're all connected. Don't shoot yourself.
Happy
Bob
Pride.
chose
all.
to choose this.
Happy Pride.
Deep in the Weebs is a show by Chuck, Nick, Joe, and Bob. Our theme music is Kawaii Friends by C. 3. You can find our show on YouTube, or subscribe to the audio-only version on iTunes or wherever podcasts are served.
We did it. After 10,000 years, our national nightmare is over, and we have recorded the Lane podcast.
I need a cigarette.
Are you not happy about Wicked City?
It's not that I'm not happy about it. It's just buckle up.
Uh-huh.